welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm coming at you with an interesting video. In today's video, the topic of the video today is making crayon candles. Okay, so I'm taking the wax from old beat up crayons and I'm making candles. What brought this concept to the table was about 5 or 6 months ago. My daughter, who likes to draw a lot, she was doing some coloring. She had some crayons and she was sharpening some of those crayons, and the excess, the filings I guess you would call them, that fell off the crayons, she was putting in a little container. And she also had some small broken down crayons that were just about to run out, and she was throwing all that away. And I told her, sweetheart, don't throw that away. And she asked why, and I said, baby, we can make candles out of that. And she wasn't really aware of that, so I told her that I would do this video. Thanks for the idea, sweetheart. And anyway, that's where this concept came from, of making candles out of old beat up crayons. So I hope you enjoy the video. Now behind me, actually over here to the side of me, I have some of those old filings. See, these are the old crayon filings that she had been doing, you know, by sharpening her crayons and things. And these are what we're going to turn into candles. In this container, this is some old broken down crayons that she had. And there's some dog hair and a bunch of paper. Don't worry about all that. I'll explain this further in detail here as we get. Okay, I'm going to be adding a few things to the stove here to introduce to you that you'll need for this project. Right now I have a few chopsticks or sticks, or you can use metal, long matchsticks, anything like that. I'll explain what these are for later. I have a nice stainless steel ladle. We're going to use this to dip our wax. Here is some cotton string, and this is going to be used for our wick. Okay, you don't need that much, obviously. I have some scissors, or in this case we're going to be using some kitchen shears. Right here I have a sieve. This is one that I used for wax a lot. You can see that there's still some wax in there, and this is going to be crucial for separating all the paper and all the dog hair and everything else out of the wax. So make sure you have a good sieve. If you don't have a good sieve, another option that you can use is some cheesecloth. Now this is discolored because I use this for filtering iced tea a lot and coffee, but anyway, you get the idea. If you don't have a sieve, you can use something like cheesecloth, but we're going to use this sieve today. I have two containers. I have a small one and a larger one. Now both of these pots I bought at Walmart, and you can probably see in my bushcraft videos where I explain about these. We're going to leave the back one, the larger one, on the back burner, and the smaller one we're going to put here on the front burner. Go ahead and put this front burner on to low heat, or I don't know, let's go up to about 3, I guess. And I'm going to go ahead and just pour all of these pieces into this pot. It's already starting to heat up, so I'm going to go ahead and just pour those things in. They're going to start to melt. And in the meantime, I'm going to just start dumping these guys in there too. Paper and everything. I'm not going to sit here and worry about separating paper and dog hair and all that. Again, I'll explain how I do that in a minute. It's pretty simple. While we're waiting, there's one last item that I forgot to mention, and that's the container in which we're going to put our candle into. So there's our candle container. That's what we're going to put our candle in. In the meantime, while we're kind of waiting on that stuff to melt, I'm going to take some of this string, and I'm going to cut just a little bit longer than what the length of this thing is. And that's how much string we're going to need for this. If you have an old soda can and you turn the tab 180 degrees so that it's right over the mouth of the can, a lot of times you can take your finger and pull this tab off. Okay, this is what we're going to use to hold the bottom of our wick. So I'm going to take my kitchen scissors here, and I turn the heat up if you haven't noticed. I'm going to take my kitchen scissors here. I'm just going to cut 2 little angles off here. And this piece in my hand, that's what we're going to use to hold the bottom of our wick. I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to filter some of this stuff out, because I do have some wax that's ready to go. You see that I'm pouring it right through this sieve. I'm just trying to let out some of the wax. In the meantime, I'm going to pour the rest of these in. And I'm going to keep this container handy because I'm not finished using it yet. You might be wondering what I'm going to use that container for. That's where I'm going to put these papers. Right there. Now, if this sieve has sat for a while, this wax is probably dried. So when you first start to make your pour again, I recommend that you start the pour real slow to allow the hot wax to melt the wax that's already on the sieve before you get going too crazy on your pour. Looks like I spilled just a little bit on the burner. Got some smoke back there. Don't worry about that too much. I'm going to just kind of shake this stuff off and get the wax out. Paper's going in that little container. You're probably wondering, why am I saving the paper? I'm going to make some nice fire starter out of it. Not really anything in there. So yeah, this paper can dry and it'll make some real nice fire starter. So for the most part, we're pretty much filtered. Now it's time to start putting our candle together. So I'm going to move this container out of the way, just kind of off to the back burner. Don't need that anymore for now. I'm going to move the wax onto a low heat here. I just turned the heat down to low, and I'm just going to keep my stick available, keep my rag handy. Now let's start working on our actual candle here. So do you remember, that's stuck in there. You remember earlier I cut that small piece off of the soda can tab? Well, what I want to do at this point is I want to take my string and I want to pop it through this little tab. This will all make more sense here in a second. So I'm just trying to pop the string through this tab. This can be a bit of a cumbersome process sometimes. Main thing is to stay patient, be calm about it, don't get too wound up about it. I use this same string on these tabs all the time, and of course it wants to wait till I'm filming to give me a hard time. There we go. Now I have a little knot here in the end. I'm going to undo this knot. And when I get to the close part of the end, you can see that I have it nice and frayed. That's because I'm going to fold it down on the bottom of this. But before I do that, I'm going to just dip this wick down into our wax. Pretty good. I'm going to kind of get it to this condition here. Pull it straight with my fingers. Now the wax is pretty hot, and my plan is to get this nice and straight. As straight as possible anyway. So I'm just kind of molding this thing down, making it nice and straight for myself. Now, as soon as it gets dry enough to the touch, I'll flip it around, but it's kind of hot right now, so I'm going to just lay it down and let it sit for a minute. As you can see, that this color of wax, kind of a messy job. I'm going to turn the heat off. This is plenty hot. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my ladle into the mix, and maybe the cooler temperature of the ladle might help cool this wax down. I'm going to move it away from the heat also. And I just turned the heat off anyway, but this burner still has some residual heat to it. So, this is pretty much soft to the touch. Now, I'm going to fold the bottom down like I said earlier. I'm just going to dip it in the wax and take this dipping thing here and drop it right down in the center. Now this is the portion where you're going to need this stick, because we have to hold this down in the center of the container. We want this to solidify. I'm blowing air down there. I'll show you what I'm doing here in just a second. See that? Here's my bucket. I have a little bit of cold water in there, and I'm just going to lay this down in there. The amount of wax that I have in the cup is the same depth of cold water I'm going to put in there. The reason for that is because if I put too much cold water in there and I set this down, it's going to be wanting to float, and I don't want it to float. Okay, this candle has had a little time to sit, and so you can see that inside it's turning solid. So what we want to do is we want to put another layer onto the candle. So I'm going to take my ladle over here again. I'm going to get a nice little ladle full, kind of mixing the wax over here as I go, and I'm going to take a nice little ladle full. I'm just going to add one more layer. And again, before I let it sit, I want to make sure that my wick is centered, and that's what this stick can be used for. This stick can be used to kind of help straighten this thing up. So I've just got the stick in there, keeping the wick in the center. I'll add some more water to bring the water up to the level of the wax. Again, this is straight cold water. This will help speed the process of the cooling. Okay, it's had time to cool. It's time for another layer. This time I'm going to probably do 2 ladlefuls. Try to get this thing going. 1. And let's do 1 more. This should pretty much finish up this candle. Now you can see how the wick is not in the proper position. I'm just going to pull this wick up and use this little tab here just to kind of hold the wick in place. I want the wick to be as centered as possible. You know, I got a couple of these sticks, and that's because sometimes you need two of them, one holding it, you know, from one direction, one holding it from the other direction. Now I'm going to add some more cold water. I happen to have some cold water sitting in the freezer, so this should be really cold, and this should help quite a bit. What's that? Something glue or something. So now we're going to just wait. Let's come on down and take a look. You can see how this thing has the wick centered, and we're just going to let it sit there for a little bit. We'll be back in a minute. In the meantime, while we're waiting for this to cool, I want to take a small glass here. Actually, it's kind of a large glass, and what my plan is to take this excess wax and put it away. The reason that I use this glass is because it's tapered, kind of like this candle here. It'll come out, and it's a good way to store the excess wax. This just happens to be a candle, but that's why I like using these glasses. The wax doesn't hurt the glass. You can still drink out of it. You just have to clean it. No big deal. So I'm going to pour the excess wax into that glass. I have a little pint jar here. Excuse me, this is a half pint. Any of the excess, just going to go in those guys. And now all my wax is taken care of. These two that are sitting here in the back are going to cool to room temperature, at room temperature. If you try to rush the cooling process, you'll get a pretty great crazy divot in the top. If you try to rush the cooling process too much, you'll get this big old heavy duty dent in the top. But if you allow it to cool at room temperature, such as this one, you'll just have a mild divot, not some big old heavy duty one. While you're in the process of allowing this wax that's in this container to cool, if you want to make a dip candle, right now would be a good time, because this wax is starting to cool down a little bit and it's not as hot, so dip candle time is perfect right now. So to do that, I take a small piece of cotton yarn, 100% cotton, and I kind of straighten it down. I just start dipping it down into the wax, okay? Just dip it down and then hold it up and let it drip a little bit. And once it kind of solidifies a little bit, dip it again. And what's going to start to happen is we're going to start to add layers to this candle. Now what you want is you want to watch the bottom. If it's dripping every time you dip it, that's an indicator that the wax is still a little bit hot for dip candles. So you want to kind of test this wax occasionally, and what your overall objective is you want the wax to be able to be dipped, or excuse me, you want to be able to dip this down in and pull it out without a lot of dripping. The fact that you don't have a lot of dripping tells you that the wax is sticking to the yarn. See, but we're still dripping, so we're not quite ready for dip candles at this moment. You can also notice that this candle over here is starting to show a little bit of a detent on the top. I'm going to set this dip candle down, let this cool a little more, and in the meantime I might take a little spoon or something, and just by spoonfuls I might put a little bit more in the top of this one. The fact that I introduced my spoon into this wax right here is going to help the process, because for dip candles, because it's going to cool the top of this wax a little bit. Just pouring a little bit in there to kind of make the top straight across. I don't want a big divot on it. Now that I have wax on this, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the boiling water. You can see how quick the wax just kind of falls off, and it makes it much easier to clean. Just a few processes makes it very easy. It's a lot cleaner than it was when I started. Still needs to be cleaned, but not near as much. Let's go ahead and give our dip candle a try again. Still dripping, but not as much. See, it only dripped once. That's the temperature that we need to make a dip candle. This is a pretty color. I mean, it's an ugly color, but it's pretty in some ways because it's kind of metallic. So basically, when it comes to a dip candle, you just keep dipping it until you get the thickness of the candle that you want. You might as well do something with the wax while we're waiting for it to cool. If you've never made a dip candle before, this would be a good chance for you to start. Good chance to try it. If you don't have any cotton string or cotton yarn available, if you have an old beat up, cotton t-shirt or something, you can cut a strip of the t-shirt off and use this as your wick. You can take a paper napkin, a piece of a paper towel, even a piece of paper. There's a lot of things that you can use for wicks. Now you can see that this thing's slowly but surely it's getting bigger, and I keep shaking it around because the shaking gets airflow to it and it dries it a little quicker. That's what allows me to go through again and again. Okay, so here you can see I have a small glass of cold water. So basically this is the process. I'll take my candle wax, I'll dip it, take it out, wait for it to stop dripping, and then dip it in the cold water. This will cool it, then I continue to dip. This process, you'll notice you'll get a lot of progress out of your candle in a short amount of time because you're using the water to chill the candle quickly, and it really speeds up the process. You can see that we're starting to get kind of thick in a short amount of time on our candle here. If you want to leave it in the water for a second, it'll let the wax cool a little more. Then just dip it in there. This is a very fun process. I enjoy doing this. My daughter loves making dip candles. You know, just main thing is make sure that you're waiting for the dripping to stop on the wax and then put it in the cup. You can also see that the wax level is getting lower as a result of us removing wax out of the cup, out of the glass, I guess I should say. If you start getting deformed over here, just work on that section. And all of this is happening in the meantime while we're waiting on that other candle to dry, to cool. When you get your dip candle about to the size that you want, it's a good idea to let it cool pretty good, and then I'll show you what I like to do. I like to take some sort of container. So in our case, I'm going to take just a small glass container here, and then when you get ready to finish your dip candle, you know, obviously you want to have it in something. Take your glass container there that you're going to be putting your dip candle in. Dip it in there real good, and while it's still dripping, we're going to put it in there. We're going to use that dripping wax to hold our dip candle. It takes it a minute to let it dry enough to hold it. Once this dip candle gets strong enough to hold its weight, just drop it down in the water. That water will solidify very quickly around that candle. Okay, they've had a little bit of time to cool. Let's go ahead and dump this water on top of this one, let it cool a little bit. I don't know where I put my little knife, but there's my flat bottom dip candle, so I can set it wherever I want. Let it sit. I'm going to just lay this baby down in here and let it cool a little more. I'm also going to take our dip candle and I'm going to cut the top just slightly above the last ring up there, because we don't need the whole thing. I'm going to let that sit, throw this away, and we'll be back after they have a little time to chill. We're almost there, so it shouldn't take long. Let's take a look. I'm going to rough up the top edge up here. Not for anything specific, I'm just busting off a little bit of the wax to expose the wick right there, because I'm going to light that in a minute. And this one has also had a good chance to cool. So I'm going to take my rag and just clean the outside of the jar. Any excess wax that might have fell, broke, you know, got in there, I just want to clean that off. I'm going to use my stick if I need it, or a knife or whatever, just anything to try to get the excess wax off of the top of this jar. You want them nice and clean, nice and pretty. We're taking pride in our work, aren't we? So if you got any excess on that jar, right now is a good time to take it off. Set that baby down. Let's move this out of the way. go ahead and kill this light behind me. And now let's give them a little light and see what they look like. Let's take a look. Let's move this one about right there. Let's put that one about right there. And let's light them up. When you first light them, for the very first time, they can be a little difficult to light because we were dealing with water as far as our cooling. Normal candles do this too. But once you get it lit, you have a nice, beautiful candle. Same thing here, we're trying to light this thing. Just bear with it and be patient. There we go. As soon as you get that, you'll notice that it's going to light. Turn off this light. Look at that. It's a beautiful light that they put out. And those candles, my friends, are made from crayons. Well, everybody, I want to say thank you for joining me today with my crayon candle video today. I hope that the video wasn't too long or too boring. I hope that you got some good information out of it. Sometimes I tend to go a little on the long side, and it's not that I do it purposely. I'm trying to show all the details of what I do, so bear with me. I'm still working on that. But I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support that you guys give me, all the support that you give my channel. Please feel free, as always, to thumbs up, share this video, like this video, subscribe to my channel if you like the content that I bring. And as always, have a beautiful day, everybody. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Go out there and make yourself some crayon candles. It's fun.